I like to think of my role as an elementary school counselor as being a collaborator, an advocate, and a counselor all in one. So I provide short term counseling for issues that might come up. I do classroom lessons. I help with crisis response and behavior supports in classrooms, but I also advocate for students. So I provide referrals for community resources and mental health services for families. And then I collaborate with families and with teachers. So I help them with the child study process if their student needs academic supports. I also help with 504 plans if their students need other supports in the classroom. Basically, I do whatever I can to help families solve problems so that their student can be empowered to have successful school experiences.
Okay. I believe that a counselor's role in dealing with teachers is to help them facilitate smooth running of their classrooms. Teachers have a lot of issues. Students just don't come to school with just education on their mind. Students come to school with outside issues, and in order for them to learn, they have to be able to deal with those outside issues. And so my job is to help those students deal with those outside issues so they can be in the right frame of mind to begin learning.
I would say overall our first role is that we're providing services to students by addressing their academic, career, and social emotional needs. We also ensure that students are scheduled into appropriate classes, and then we assist them with learning how to advocate for themselves if things become difficult.
So for elementary age students, the most common reasons why they might come see me is for anything from family changes like divorce or caretakers changing, to just anxiety about school, stress with friendships, test anxiety. And most times there are things that can be solved with a 5-minute conversation and a little bit of play and some listening. And then I also have 5th grade students that I will help prepare for middle school and for state testing, prep, and anxiety around kind of those big deal academic moments.
There's no issue that a student can't address with me. I tell them up front that whatever issues that they have that's what we're going to work on. But there are things that I am required to do. And so if they bump up into those requirements, like abuse or threaten to harm themselves or others, I have to report that. But we're going to do that together.
Gotcha.
I'm not just going to just out them like that, but we're going to do that together because I have to do that. But there's no issue that a student can't bring to me. And there is no issue that I can't help the student find resources for.
Okay. So
I would say at the high school level, we seem to help a lot of students that when they come in and they're struggling in a class, whether that's with struggling academically with the class itself, the work, or if they're struggling with conflicts between peers or even their teachers, then we usually try to help them find a way to resolve the problem, either with tutoring or oftentimes it's just learning how to effectively communicate and advocate for themselves and begin talking with their teachers.
I was surprised by how much data and assessment and testing was going to come across my desk and how crucial that data would be to my position. I've become pretty well versed in looking at data and using it to identify students who are in need of extra support, but it was a learning curve for sure.
When I first became a counselor, I really didn't know anything because when I was in school, counselors didn't speak to us. I didn't have a personal relationship with a counselor. I found out the role of a counselor my senior year when I became an aide for the counselor, who was actually one of the football coaches. And so when I became a counselor, I thought I was just going to do scheduling. But when I got there, all these other issues started coming into play that I learned that school counselors is not only there to help you academically, they are there to help you personally. And so that personal issue is something that I had to learn to do well. And I always had a passion for it, so it was easy for me.
I never realized how complicated school counselors' jobs are. credits can be complicated in and of themselves. It's very detailed work, and I never realized how much documentation goes into it.
So it's hard to narrow down to one favorite thing, but I love that I'm very rarely chained to a desk, and that every day is different. So I don't really know what I'm walking into every morning, but I love that about my job. And no matter where I'm at in the building, I get to kind of be a safe place for every student. So not just the students that have really high needs or need those supports, but for every student, just for your average student, they know that they have someone they can talk to. And I love that about school counseling.
My favorite thing about my job is seeing kids happy. I play with them in the hallways. I joke with them. But my favorite thing is years later when I've touched a student and they come back and tell me that. Especially, I can't go anywhere in Tulsa without running into a student that I know personally or knew my sons, because my sons went through Tulsa Public School.
I love when my students succeed, especially when they didn't think they were going to. Maybe they started off behind and then they really work through the year and then they make it. My favorite day is graduation, when you get to watch them walk across the stage and see the obstacles they've overcome to get that diploma.
So one thing that people usually don't know is that I'm actually a master's level mental health professional. And so I have credentials, I have a license. And so when I provide therapeutic supports, it's to the whole building at every level. So I'm helping one-on-one with students and classroom-wide and school-wide and in the community. So sometimes that's a bit of a surprise to parents to know that I'm bringing that to the table.
You know what? That school counselors are not disciplinarians. They might have to be at other schools. So a lot of kids, when they come down to see me, they like, oh, what did I do? What did I do? I tell them you didn't do anything. I'm here to do something for you. And so that's the misconceptions. Because counseling has so many roles in so many different schools that kids don't really understand what we do.
I don't think people realize how busy we actually are. A lot more goes into it besides just scheduling students. We're meeting with them a lot, going over things. We have a lot of roles that they maybe don't realize where our time is split up. So I think it would be nice if people could actually see what we do in a day. Maybe they'd have a little more patience and be more appreciative of what we do.